Okay, so yesterday we talked about the cosmetic bags that I was doing, and yesterday my plan was that I was going to do another cosmetic bag, but I had to stop and work on something else because um, I have a system for organizing scraps, and it was time for me to deal with some of the scraps. So I'm going to show you the first part of my system. So I have here is a shoebox of really small scraps. When I have this overflowing, and it's just a shoebox, when it's overflowing, it's time for me then to go and work on my scraps to get rid of those and so use them. And so what I do is I like to make these strips, and you've seen me make these before. I'm just addicted to this type of sewing. I mean, I'd rather do this than just about anything in the world. No matter what's happening in life, this kind of sewing is really, you don't have to think much about it. So I'm going to show you what this is. So this is, I was using paper before, thin paper, to make these, but I have been trying, I'll show you, I've been trying the scrap tape because this says that it is, once you sew on it, it's like a very thin, it feels like the old stitch witchery, for those of you who know what that is. And it is slightly ironing on one side. It's not real, you don't, when you iron on it doesn't stick a lot. You don't need it to. You just need it to hold these pieces together as you're sewing on them. And so it goes like this. So if I have this strip, I will look in my scraps and I will find this covers the whole top of that strip, plenty laying over. I will then find another piece that covers all the way across there. I'm going to use myself as a board, all the way across there, and then I'm going to sew there. And I'm just going to, well, I'll just show you. Right sides together, sew it, 1/4 inch, flip it, give it an iron. You're going to keep doing that all the way down the strip. Sometimes they might go crooked, which makes them more interesting. Sometimes you need to piece two together. This is how I use just about every scrap, and I have that that illness that's a lot of us have, to want to use all of it, because number one, scrap quilts are free. You know, you've already spent a lot on the fabric. Use every inch of it, and I just happen to just love this kind. So you'll see this strip, I started with going straight here, and then as we got down here, there was a piece that needed to go on kind of slanted so it would cover, and then things started to slant, and it's really just up to you. This right here is a piece that's been pieced, 3 different pieces together, four different pieces together, and I even have a little bit of salvage in there, but that'll probably be cut off later. So what I do is when I make these, I just make them in strips that are about this long. It makes it easy for me to use in my sewing machine. This that I'm trying out, the scrap tape, is supposed to wash away. I haven't tried it yet. So anytime I have, for my website and for my retreats, I try everything before I sell it. So this is one that I've had for a while, and I've been kind of trying it to see, is it something that's actually better than just using the paper that I've been using? And the answer is yes, because if this does wash off, and I'll let you know, I'm going to test one of these soon. If it does wash completely off, that means I have never had to take all the paper off the back. And that means all of my stitches are going to stay nice and secure because I don't have to rip paper off. I just like using myself as the board. There we go. So this way it'll wash away. Now you can use interfacing that doesn't wash away, because that still is, I could leave, if I were just using interfacing, I could leave it on here and still make this into a quilt and sew it. But I like the idea this may wash away, so we're working on that, and I'll let you know what I find out about the scrap tape. But so far I love it. So what I do is I have now I just go with colors. Right now I've just been doing strips that are all like one color family, and I'll show you what one of the quilts I've done with that. I brought it in. Did I bring it in? Yes. Here we go. Let me go back a little bit so you can kind of see it. Okay, so you see, there's where those scraps are. I cut these down to, they ended up being about, I think it was 2 inches. And then the whole quilt is just these long strips of each color. And so, can you see that? You get this nice, beautiful quilt that is simply me using my scraps up. It makes me feel so good because I've used every inch. Let me get closer, I'll show you here. See how we've got little pieces sewn together, and we've got lots of different sizes. It allows me to use every inch. I have a lot of different ideas on other ways I want to use these strips. And I have just decided, I used to think maybe I shouldn't use this type of sewing for everything I do, but then again, it's what I love to do. And so since it's what I love to do, I can't seem to stop. I'm just gonna keep doing it. It makes me so happy. Now, something else you might see on here is I have some of the big stitch quilting, because I love the big stitch quilting, which is sewing with a needle. I'm gonna come closer so you can see. Sewing with the needle with embroidery floss, and I've used white on this one. And it is, just use a needle that has a big eye and it has a pointed end, and the big eye is so that you can put your thread in. You can use pearl cotton, or you can use embroidery floss, 3 strands. And pearl cotton I use a number 8, but it just makes this nice, look how nice it makes this texture. And I absolutely love that. And so when you do straight lines this close together, I got this nice texture. You can use this, I did this on some placemats, which was really cool. Again, with that cool texture, it adds a lot. And these are nice and soft. These are like grandma's quilts. These are not stiff at all. These are the ones that you're gonna wanna cuddle up with. So again, this was just a free quilt that I made. All right, so that's what I'm working on, and it'll turn into something like that. I mean, you can go on Pinterest and get lots of good ideas on, you can go diagonal strips, you can do all the way around, where they kind of follow themselves around. Lots of stuff I can do with this, so I'm never gonna run out of ideas. So that is, oh, so let's see. So I'll show you something else I do. Well, actually, let me just show you, let me flip you around here, if I remember how. Is it this one? I can't flip you around. Okay, well, I am just gonna show you this way then. So here's my table of scrap. Oh. Here's my table of scraps. And I'm just sorting, so I'm going through this, I'm pulling out the colors that will match with my different piles here, and then when I get a pile big enough that I know I can do a strip, then I go ahead. Now my next pile that I'm probably going to work on is these pinks. There they are, my pinks. But I may not do that today, because now that I have, this was overflowing before. Let me put you back on the stand. So this was overflowing before, sorry, and now it is not. So I keep this near me as I sew. All little scraps go in. I never let it go more than this, because I have learned there's no point in me making bags and bags and bags of scraps. So I don't do that. I have to use it up, and it becomes something that's just my system, because I have to use these scraps. I can't stop myself. Now there's another thing I do with scraps, and that is, I'll show you here. As I'm going along, I cut. If I pull out a scrap that's bigger than a couple of inches, if I can get a 2 to 3 inch strip out of a scrap, I will do that. So I have a whole box of 3 inch strips. This one's a little smaller, but 3 inch strips that I can use for different projects. I haven't decided what yet to use my 3 inch strips for. And I also do 1.5 inch strips, and I know what I want to use those for. I want to use those for this. So this is what I did with some of my scraps. And this is using the foundation paper by It's So Emma. It's a product I absolutely love sewing on these. And so this one, this is the first time I'm doing a 6-inch pineapple is what this is. It is no, it's a courthouse steps, I think. So many ways. Is it? We'll figure it out. You tell me, what do you think? Is it courthouse steps or is it pineapple block? I will have to look. But I love, love, love doing this. Again, I can watch a movie. I can just easily put my next strip on and sew and fold it. My next strip on, sew and fold it. And another time I'll show you how to do this. I think I have some videos somewhere back in my back channel where I show you some of this. But that's what I'm going to do with this size, and I haven't yet dreamed of a project for this size. Now, I won't need to do that soon because, again, I'm getting ready. I'm trying to get everything done that I possibly can here before I leave for Florida in probably January. So this is just my daily kind of routine is as I'm sewing, I keep these scraps, the scrap heaps going. So as I have a piece of scrap, I'll cut it into 3 inches, then I'll cut whatever's left, can I get an 1.5 inches out of, and then anything that I can't get an 1.5 inch strip out of, that goes into this box. So that's my basic system, and I love it. It's here, it's ready for me. There are a lot of times where, sewing for me is just relaxing, as it probably is for you too. So sometimes I don't want to think. This is also a great project to take to retreats because if you have a pattern where you have to think at a retreat, I will screw up that pattern every single time. So I just know my limits. So this is great for when you want to visit and you want to just sew and not think too hard about it. So I want to ask you, thank you. Yesterday we have one of you that did answer us and say what you're working on was the AQS Christmas quilt, and I did take a look at that. That is beautiful, and I would love for you to share a picture of how it's going. I think you can do that in our chat, in our YouTube comments. I don't know though, I'll have to see. But would absolutely love to know, what are you doing with your scraps? Do you have a scrap quilt that's going? Do you have one that's always kind of going in the background? Or do you decide to sit down and work on scrap quilts all at once? So let me know, and let me know what patterns you use. I'd love to share. If you like everything that we're talking about here, then go ahead and click the subscribe button and the little bell, which means you'll get the notifications of when I've got something new for you just to pop in and see what we're working on today. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.